Roseanne's been barred, embarrassing double standards in the media industry, and something that actually matters, trade wars and why they were bound to happen. All that today on War Elephants Pass in Review. My name is John Davis, and this is War Elephants Pass in Review. So Roseanne is no more. After an extraordinarily stupid tweet, Roseanne Barr's show has been canceled. In a now famous tweet, Roseanne Barr mentioned that one of Barack Obama's closest aides looked like the Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes had a baby. The VJ in question was Valerie Jarrett, who, like I said, was one of President Barack Obama's chief aides in the White House. Jarrett herself being a black American with Middle Eastern background, you can see how Roseanne's tweet would have been deeply offensive. Blacks in America have had a long history of racism that specifically made allusions to them looking like apes. And it's now become something that's like that exists outside of the category that is like, you don't say some things. Like in polite, decent, humane society, you don't say that a black person looks in any way, make any comparisons to somebody looking like an ape. It's like I'm not even lecturing on this point. I'm not virtue signaling or pontificating. It's just, it's not something that's done. But Roseanne, being Roseanne, did it. This resulted in an immediate backlash that inevitably led to her losing her show. Now, mind you, at the time, Roseanne was the most popular sitcom on TV, mostly because it revolved around something that doesn't exist in most media, a very Trump-supporting character as the title character of the show. Now, Roseanne did issue out a series of apologies, but by then the damage was done and her show was canceled. Now, a lot of people have asked me how I feel about this, because Roseanne was supposed to be this Trump-supporting conservative type, and that finally we were getting a show that represented us. But here's the thing about that. If you watch my show from last week, I actually talked about characters like Kanye West and Roseanne who come out as these huge Trump supporters, but don't have any of our traditional values, or especially of actual conservatives. They don't represent conservatives. They never did. If you even watch the show, if you even watch the Roseanne show, you have all of these very, very hard left themes that come out. You have a child who at the very least is cross-dressing. At some point that was going to develop in some sort of transgender conversation on the show. They also talk about the problems with pharmaceutical drug use in a way that supports left-leaning themes. There was also in the show's opener a line about donating ovaries that favored itself to supporting arguments for abortion. Now, everywhere throughout this show, it's filled with left-leaning themes that don't in any way support conservative ideas. And it's through looking at those left-leaning themes that you find out who the good people are. If they believe, as somebody on the left would say, that's how we know they're a good person. The only thing that makes them appeal to Trump supporters or conservatives of all is that she was very against Hillary Clinton. Well, by virtue of that, like, there's nothing on the show that could not have been targeted directly to Bernie supporters. If you were a Bernie Sanders supporter, there was very little on the show that you should have had a problem with, and that became a big issue. That became a big issue with a lot of people. In that, as we watch it more and more, it's like, this doesn't represent us. Like, this show doesn't represent us at all, which had a great deal to do with the fact that the show started falling off. Now, it was still the most popular show currently, but it felt as if it was trying to slip in a lot of leftist views into something billed as a conservative television show. So what's my honest opinion on Roseanne losing her spotlight, losing her show? Like, it doesn't bother me at all. I actually feel that this is a good thing. I'm glad that somebody who in my mind was faking, like, that she had my ideals, that she had my views, and she had my concerns, that somebody who who to me was faking it, now has lost her spotlight representing people that I know and care about. The old show is the same way. It talked about legalizing certain drugs. It had open conversations about abortion, in favor of abortion, and also touched on these issues dealing with sexuality, all in a way that favored the left in an almost propagandistic nature. Now, here, she had a show that was, again, targeted towards people that I care about, people who actually live a lifestyle very similar to the one depicted in Roseanne's show, and she was trying to act like she represented that, but she doesn't. She doesn't represent us at all. She doesn't represent people like this at all. All right, if you'll allow me, I'd really like to try to do something and figure out why I think Roseanne actually said what she said. Roseanne doesn't in any way act like a conservative. She doesn't in any way act like a regular Trump voting populist. But she's now become the representative for all of them, whether we asked for it or not. So what does that do for a person when they suddenly become a massive, huge hit celebrity again, and they're doing it by representing people who they don't actually represent? Okay, so what I think happened was that Roseanne got drunk on her own celebrity and started thinking that she could get away with absolutely anything because now she was the lone voice for half the country. Okay, and I think that this was caused in a large part by people saying, yes, a celebrity finally supports us, without actually asking, is this a celebrity we want? Okay, so people just threw appreciation at her, and because she's an unhinged person who has always had views that disagree with our actual views, then she's going to do things that make no sense. And here's where I think it really boils down to. I think that when you take somebody who was traditionally of the left, of that far left, and has always kept the actual views of real conservatives, of the type of people that she plays in the show, at a distance, once she starts trying to really be the voice of them, to represent the people, then she's forced to fall back on nothing but stereotypes of them. Okay, that's where I think her tweet actually came from. She's a person of the left who's now commenting for people on the right. Okay? She's now trying to represent them and their views. But she doesn't know what they are, so she has to go with stereotypes. Well, what is by far the biggest stereotype of people who are conservative, of all those people? Well, that they're racist. Well, they're low-hanging fruit. They're racist. So what does she do with this idea of how the world works? She thinks that, one, she's drunk with power. Two, she's trying to pretend to be people that she doesn't understand. And three, she's trying to mimic them based on her worst stereotypes of them. So, of course, you're going to see her say these outrageous things on Twitter, and they're going to be the most offensive things ever. But this is what happens when hard leftists try to pretend to be conservatives. They turn into extraordinarily nasty people. You really hate whenever something terrible is said, but you're glad that at least now the veil has been removed. But I'm actually really happy that Roseanne is off the air, because I'm really tired of people who don't represent me getting to represent people I care about, getting to represent views that they're only faking. So yeah, again, I'm happy Roseanne's gone. Okay, I mean, that's been said, and that should have been where it ended. But now we really have to talk about where the media took this. Okay, following Roseanne's immediate demise, which should tell people about the culture of the country, that nobody came out to support her. Nobody. But the way that the media handled this was to take that singular statement, that statement by Roseanne, and say that Roseanne was only empowered to say those things because Trump believes those things. That because Roseanne said a racist thing, Trump is racist. And no, there's not a lot of logic there. Trump supported her because she was putting out a show that supported him. That's not saying Trump supported her because they've had a lot of talks in the background and said, you know what? I'm really racist. How about you? Oh, really? Yeah, me too. Let's work together. Like, that never happened. It never happened. It makes no sense. But this is what a lot of the media narrative, especially this series of interviews happening right after that with Roseanne that linked Roseanne was racist because Trump is racist. And it got even worse to the point that on another one, this racism in America in the Trump era, brought out Michelle Angela Davis, who is an activist. She's a cultural writer, and her statements were literally on like live on CNN that the reason that we got Trump was because Americans who voted for Trump are racist. That's the only thing. Not just some of Trump's voters. All of Trump's voters are racist, and that's why we have a racist president. Like 60 million people are maybe not violently racist, but because they're racist, that's why we have a racist president. So that's the bridge we're building here. Is that because a celebrity said a racist thing, the president is racist, and now that's because so many Americans are actually racist. Well, now take this and look at what MSNBC did. They had, within days, they had put together a panel. I can't believe who they're picking to be on this panel, because Joy Reid, like 10 minutes ago, it was discovered that she put out these posts that were attacking gay people. They were attacking gay people, and then her excuse, whenever it was found out, was that, oh no, I have amnesia. I have amnesia of that whole time, as if like sounding like some plot twist from an 80s TV show, and it's amnesia did it. I was under a spell, or my evil twin, Anger Reid. That's who really did this and used my name, and that's why these posts exist. And it's like she had nothing happened out of that, like out of making these statements that actually attacked gay people. There was no problem with it. She had like a relative slap on the hand, and is now leading a panel on hate. With Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton being somebody who is famous for his anti-Semitic rhetoric, along with all of his activism work. And so like that's who we're using to lead a panel about everyday racism in the United States. And that's where this whole line of thought has gone, is that because Roseanne said something racist, and as I said, Roseanne doesn't represent us. Okay, she saw a market opportunity to represent a lot of people who didn't have anybody else. Okay? So she doesn't represent us, but she said something insanely racist while pretending to be one of us. Trump, therefore, is racist because reasons. Trump is racist because Trump's voters are racist. And Trump's voters are racist because, obviously, America is a deeply racist country. And it's like, if we just had a talk about how celebrities don't get to do horrible things, like that seems to have been a lot of the Me Too movement, is that a lot of powerful people were taking advantage of their power and starting to believe they were gods and that they could get away with doing everything. That would have been fine. You could have just been fine with having that conversation, but no. Then they made this completely nonsense argument that tried to paint America as racist because an actor said something. Okay, it's the most insane thing. And because of this, and this is what I actually think is going to happen. I actually think that because of that, they've completely lost whatever point that they could have made from Roseanne doing these things. In that now people are going to say, okay, that was a bit of a stretch. And saying that literally all Trump voters are racist people, and that America is a deeply racist country because white racism exists. We don't ever talk about racism directed towards whites from any minority. We don't ever talk about racism directed from any minority to another minority. I actually read a really good piece the other day about a black guy who was dating a Vietnamese girl, but the mother of the Vietnamese girl absolutely would not have him because he was black. And it's like, there is racism, but the conversation only goes in the direction of whites. Whites are the problem. And it's like, I think that the news trying to make this case a case which most people look at and say, this is not the way that the world works. It doesn't explain reality well enough. And whenever people start seeing how hard they're trying to get Trump and to attack his voter base and to attack America as a whole, they're losing. They're losing, and this is why. Now, all right. That being said, you've got these news personalities, this major media industry that hates Trump, that hates anything that has anything to do with Trump, even to the point that now all Trump voters are racist and that all of America is racist by extension. Just all because Roseanne said a thing. We've never seen any of the people who said stupid things but also voted for President Obama being the reason why President Obama was good or bad. That's never been a bridge that people were willing to cross before. But I'd really like to show you the people that they're talking about. This is a Facebook post by a friend of mine. She volunteers at my church with me, spends a lot of hours trying to help out kids. And if I had to think of if there was a real Roseanne, a decent real Roseanne, that from the heart of Trump land, that lady who she'll tell you exactly what she thinks, and it probably won't be something you like, but she does the right things for the right reasons. Even her kids are great kids. If I knew a real life Roseanne that didn't disgust me, it would be Carrie. Okay, and this is what she had to say. Even like I said, I've never seen a single person come out and say, I agree with Roseanne about everything that she said. As all you people saying is terrible, no, I agree with it. No, everyone I've seen agrees that what Roseanne said was terrible. Even some of her biggest fans, even people who the huge Trump supporting people from out here, not defending what Roseanne said. It was wrong and she deserves to be canceled. However, if she had said it about President Trump, she would have been praised. That's the point that a lot of people are making, is that there's this extreme bias and it only goes in one direction. And now that these media outlets are actually saying that people like this are the horrible, horrible, terrible racists, and America is this horrible, terrible racist nation because people like Carrie exist. A real version of Roseanne that's actually a decent human being, rather than Roseanne, rather than whoever Roseanne was depicting on her show. That people like Carrie exist. This is what's wrong, and they're losing. They're losing because people know real Carries. Okay. But they want to prop up Roseanne as a symbol of America, and it's they're not. They're not. Carrie is. Carrie's a pretty decent example, but because they try to make this message that's completely not true, they're losing. And they're also showing that media has this really bad problem of double standards in how they treat people. Okay, so a few closing thoughts on this Roseanne situation. I'm seeing a lot of hypocrisy on both sides dealing with it. One, something else happened in the news this last week that a lot of people were really happy about. And that was the fact that the NFL came out and said, you can't kneel during the national anthem. Okay? They came out and said it. And Roseanne got fired. Now, a lot of people were happy about one, but upset about the other. Now, what I'm saying is both were fine. Why? Because both of them are owned by corporations. Okay? Roseanne's show is owned by ABC. ABC has the rights to it. They sacrificed big by cutting everything after they put so much money into it. But that's their right. If they think that their product is going to be damaged by Roseanne's reputation now that she's both a vile Trump supporter and because she said some really stupid things, then they have the rights to cut their product. Okay? That's within their rights. The NFL, all the teams within the NFL are all they're all products, and what the protesters at the NFL do is really, really destroying the value of the NFL and actually the value of the individual teams. It's people signed off on that by the millions, and it's one of the things that they got the message, we've got to put a stop to this. Now, they allowed players that if you're going to go out during the national anthem, you will stand. Now, you don't have to go out. Fine. You don't have to go out and show that you must support it. That would be compelled speech, too. But if you're going to be out there, you will stand during the national anthem. The kneeling, it's just done. Now, both of these are private companies. Both of these are private companies who can do whatever they want with their products. And if you're going to incorporate something like the national anthem, you got to do it a certain way. With Roseanne, when she says some really stupid stuff on her own, then that caused major consequences. But the fact of the matter is, if you're happy about one, and this goes for liberals, it goes for conservatives, it goes for Trump supporters, it goes for anybody. If you're happy about one, but unhappy about the other, then you're being a hypocrite. Okay, you can be unhappy with both of them, that nobody should be told what to do, that freedom is the only thing that everybody should be okay with, or everybody should be fired all the time. But saying that you're happy with one but unhappy with the other, no. Okay, so Samantha Bee. Samantha Bee made a lot of headlines this week whenever she had on her show a rant targeted at Ivanka Trump. Now, what Ivanka had the nerve to do was to post a picture on Memorial Day of her spending time with her son. I know, disgusting, right? Well, apparently that's exactly what Samantha Bee thought. Samantha Bee thought that because Ivanka Trump did anything at all, because Trump, that she is the target for constant and total brutal harassment. But like the question is, what can possibly drive someone to attack a woman, Trump or not, hanging out with her son? Well, B is currently channeling a major narrative on among Democrats of this focus on cruelty of the U.S. immigration policy. Now, it's so cruel because it's breaking up children from their illegal immigrant parents. Now, because of that, how cruel and insensitive was Ivanka Trump for daring to acknowledge that she has a child? Now, that commentary, as absurd as it is, wasn't what actually got Samantha Bee in trouble. What got her in trouble was that to punctuate this rant, she called Ivanka Trump the C word. Now, she did it, and her audience were uproarious. It was like watching a scene from Idiocracy, that if you just use a curse word that is bad enough, people will cheer because they love they love it. And then everything is better because you push the limits, you push the envelope, and you got Trump while you're at it. No, it was just disgusting behavior. And the fact that she got away with it, and that's the thing, she got away with it. Now, she tweeted out, "I deeply apologize to Ivanka Trump and to all the other people because I crossed the line." But then the very next day, she received an award for progressing justice in the media, because apparently attacking women in the most feminine manner possible is somehow promoting women's rights. So I guess that because she took that word, she appropriated that word. It's like taking it back. It's like what black people did. Okay, yeah, that's really done a lot for black culture. Okay, but now Samantha Bee is going to use it for women she doesn't agree with, because that's somehow good for women. Anyway, they gave her an award for this. They gave her an award, not for this act specifically, but because of her general way of handling the world, which is mostly just how can I punctuate whatever topic I want with outrage culture and with cursing and with making sure that I can say things in the most provocative manner possible. That's what makes actual news. I mean, technically she's a comedy show, but it's just gross to watch. Now, she received an award, and while there, she basically said, I shouldn't have said that word, but it's really everyone else's fault because that issue shouldn't have happened. And if that issue wasn't happening, then I probably wouldn't have said it. First of all, people who can't take responsibility for their own actions and just eat it, just take it and just say, I really screwed up, and just done. You're done. You're done talking about it. You're not going to tell people about why it's really someone else's fault that you acted the way you did, because you're just going to do it again next time. That's the thing, is that this is not the last time we'll see something like this from Samantha Bee. She's just going to keep trying to do more and more and more, because the F word doesn't do it anymore. It just doesn't invigorate people enough. And when you have a group, like an audience that wants desperately to see something this gross and disgusting, they want that, then you're going to see more Samantha Bees act the way they will. Now, how does this compare again to Roseanne? Remember in another segment, I talked about Roseanne. Roseanne came out and she said something disgusting. Now, personally, I think that most people rank Roseanne's statement a little higher or a little worse on the offensiveness scale, but like not much. It's sort of like, what's the difference between the highest skyscraper and the one that's just a little bit shorter than that? It's still high enough that you're going to die if you jump off. Okay, like both of them are horrible, horrible things that are just out of this world. That how do you think that you should ever be able to say that? Now, Roseanne, she lost her show, she lost her job. 150 people working on the Roseanne show are all out of jobs now because of Roseanne's actions. Now, she came out in a series of apologies, begging for the show not to be taken down. It was shown how she was absolutely distraught. However, Samantha Bee, she got a slap on the wrist. She got a slap on the wrist because her network, TBS, started to be afraid that they were going to receive boycotting of the show, that advertisers started to pull their advertising from it, because this is, nobody wants to be associated with that. Now, here's the thing though. ABC, as I said in my other segment, ABC didn't plan on Roseanne being a complete crazy person. Now, she's always been a crazy person, so they should have at least thought that one through. But nobody expected what she actually did. So they pulled they pulled her show, and I think from a business perspective, they probably did the right thing. TBS, though, they're going to keep on having people like Samantha Bee, because that's what they wanted. They wanted a product to attract angry, viciously angry liberals who are fine with this sort of behavior. Now, there's been a lot of liberals who are like, no, that's not okay. But there's some, and a lot of my liberal friends know this, there's some who have absolutely nothing wrong with saying horrible things, depending on the politics of the person they're directed at. You know, you can say horribly racist things if you're talking about a black conservative. You can say this against women if they're Republican women. Whereas this, calling a woman a C word just because of who her father was, just because, and then to even go on and say that she should dress up in a short dress so that she can seduce her father into having sex with her, so that she can convince him to stop doing things that Samantha Bee doesn't like. You know, all the things that you say you're not allowed to say. Well, just the way that you pull that lever in the voting box, it basically says that you don't have any of those protections. That basic human decency doesn't apply to you if you're certain liberals, and we're talking about certain other people. It's really terrible behavior. But the thing is, that's what they bought when they bought Samantha Bee. They wanted that sort of behavior. Now, you know, if we're comparing this to what Roseanne did, you know, Roseanne was a single person who acted on her own with a reply on Twitter. Okay, that was one person. This is not the same as Samantha Bee. She has writers, she has producers, she has editors. They had filming. Everything had to go through pre-editing, which means that many people, not just Samantha Bee, many people at TBS had to say, you know what, maybe this shouldn't go through. Maybe, is this too much? No, it's good. Thumbs up. So whenever they say, yeah, it was totally our fault, yeah, it was. It was totally your fault. Like, ABC is not responsible for what Roseanne did. But TBS, yeah, no, they are totally responsible for this, because it was their employees that made it possible for any of us to see. Like, if she had just said that and the audience heard it and they laughed, but then somebody was like, no, I can't put this on air, we're editing that part out, then there would be no controversy, because somebody at TBS showed some common sense and decency. This is going to help her in the end. She's going to have more people, probably more of those vicious people, find out, oh wow, there's somebody out there like that for me, and they're going to go to her, and she's going to continue to be heinous. And that's something that everybody should bother people. As far as a business decision meant that Roseanne probably should have lost the show, because it's probably going to be very bad for ABC and Disney if they didn't. For TBS, no, Samantha Bee, probably going to keep promoting her, probably going to put on as much as they can of her. The thing is, this is going to be good for TBS in the end. That's a truly terrible state of affairs, but it brings up the fact that, more and more people are at a place where they no longer trust the media. They no longer trust the media for exactly these reasons, because there's an obvious double standard. And I mean, maybe it does all come down to business perspective, but there's an obvious double standard to where Samantha Bee will not lose her job. Roseanne, she did. So, okay, yeah. Samantha Bee may be commanding a much more liberal audience. Her liberal audience, or at least the parts of the liberal of the liberal audience that are terrible. Like, I've got so many good liberal friends who think that she's absolutely disgusting. And I know that there's plenty of great ones out there, but that really hardcore side of the left that just like they don't care if they're actually receiving the truth, so long as someone's bashing the people that they want bashed. If you're not in that very tiny group, that dwindling group that all of these media outlets seem to be targeting and seem to be asking, come join us, you're getting tired and you're getting fed up with it, and you're abandoning those media outlets. And so people are losing it with the media. The fact that the media is okay with these deplorable, disgusting actions, if and only if they're coming from a really left-leaning person, then you're having half the country getting completely tired of everything about the media. There's a reason people are abandoning the media, and it's because they are supporting people who are more heinous than we've ever seen in history. They no longer trust these personalities, and they no longer trust the stations that promote them, that call them leaders, that treat them like they deserve a spot in our lives. Let's look at a different example now. All right, and again, last week there was another event that saw President Trump quoted by numerous publications as having said that illegal immigrants are animals, that they aren't even people. C-SPAN also furthered the narrative, saying that within the context of sanctuary cities, Trump said these aren't people, these are animals, once again referring to illegal immigrants. Bringing up the New York Times again, specifically tweeted out, Trump lashed out at undocumented immigrants during a White House meeting, calling those trying to breach the country's borders animals. That was an actual tweet by the New York Times. Now, the specific context of the meeting was regarding California's laws relating to immigration. But that specific statement came in regards to the gang MS-13, a gang that focuses on dealing drugs inside the United States using Mexican counterparts over the border. So they are a drug trafficking cartel, which deals with everything from human trafficking to drug trafficking to arms and illegal weapons trafficking. MS-13 members have been proven responsible for violent and atrocious murders, including numerous beheadings, even reports of ripping out a man's still beating heart happen. And a lot of these towns that Donald Trump was talking to, they were the mayors of towns affected by this sort of gang violence. Now, a lot of these towns were bringing it up because they can't actually report what they're seeing to ICE because of the laws of California. One of these mayors actually brought up MS-13 and her difficulties in communicating with ICE about it. And the context of that was Donald Trump saying that these people, referring to MS-13 gang members, were animals. And I'm sorry, but in every way, shape, and form, they are. Some people aren't people. They are horrible human beings. And we need to do everything we can to keep them out of the country. We need to first acknowledge that not everyone in this world is good. We need to acknowledge that not everyone in this world is good. And some people make the world a worse place because they exist. Now, I'm not saying that we can go around just killing everyone we think are MS-13, but we have to do everything we can to keep them out of the country. But here, what the news media reported was that this statement referred to any illegal immigrant. All illegal immigrants are animals. Now, for them to actually say that means that they had to have watched the entire footage. But yet they still put out this message saying that the president said something about people that he didn't. This photo recently went viral. It depicts 2 illegal immigrant children held in an ICE facility. Now, what outraged people was that these kids were apparently being held in cages like they were animals. Now, immediately after this photo started started making the initial rounds, it started getting retweeted and shared by many political activists and members of the media. Now, what was important with it is that it also tied into this narrative happening that ICE has lost track 1,500 illegal immigrant children, or migrant children, or the children of migrants. This idea that apparently there's 1,500 children just running around as some random herd in the desert is motivating many people into this sort of activism focused specifically on illegal immigrants. And so that's the setting, and then this image shows up. Now, what it says to many people is that this is Trump's America. This is what we're doing now. We're locking these kids away in cages. Now, the problem with this is that it was later found out that this image was indeed real. However, it wasn't taken under the Trump administration. It was taken in 2014 under President Obama. What this did was that it caused sort of a situation for many of the liberal activists who retweeted this image. They included Barack Obama's very own speechwriter, Jon Favreau, who was highly critical of Donald Trump for doing this to children. Sean King, the Black Lives Matter activist. Lauren Wolf, the director of the Women's Media Center, Women Under Siege. And this is probably the most terrifying of them all. This image was also retweeted as being indicative of Trump's America by none other than the New York Times editor-in-chief, Jake Silverstein. Now, that's what really should bug people, is that this extraordinarily false narrative is being pushed by some extraordinarily influential people, when ultimately the way it was presented was fake news. Now, but it actually gets worse. Now, this image is being used to present that the children are being locked into small cages. Even a close look at the image itself shows that not to be true, but just seeing kids behind a chain link fence is enough to scare people. I get that. But okay, let's stick to your guns. If that's wrong, then it's wrong, and it was wrong then. Well, obviously this says a lot about the bias within these people, that it's wrong, but only because the wrong president did it. Now, if it was wrong, then it's not just wrong when Trump does it. It's wrong. That's it. If you agree that this is wrong, then it's still wrong because Obama did it. But because the wrong president did it, now these people have deleted their tweets, retweeting this ultimately fake news. Now, I have to ask, when people like the New York Times editor-in-chief put out a news story that they haven't vetted, and that tells an extremely false narrative, but then deletes it because it makes the wrong president look bad, that should be something that should concern us all. And again, this goes back to this drive that so many people are trying to push, that Donald Trump is breaking up families. Donald Trump is breaking up families. Well, at the end of the day, it comes down to the fact that if you really love your kids, you shouldn't put them in danger of being taken away from you. Okay, when you know the laws of your country say that they're citizens here, you're not. Do we just send away our own citizens? No, but we must obey the law. You can't put your children in danger of losing you if you care about your kids. Why is this President Trump's fault? It's not. But that's the narrative that's being told, is that Donald Trump is breaking up families. When we've seen in this last week that the media is perfectly fine with making a complete nonsense attack on any woman in any way related to Donald Trump if they don't agree with them, that the media is willing to put out fake news that actually related to Donald Trump, and that they are willing to intentionally mislead people with statements that the president is saying about gang members, active, brutal gang members, making it seem as if, again, he's racist and hates Mexicans. It's getting to the point that I have to ask, when is it enough? When is it enough that people are going to say, you know what, we can't trust anything these people are saying. We can't trust. That's where I was 2 years ago. Saying, like, where do I go now? Like, I completely believed that the media wasn't as biased as everybody says, but now it's obvious. It's obvious that they're not reporting the truth. But what a lot of conservatives are getting frustrated with is that there are no repercussions for this. When the New York Times tweets out and then spells out in their articles completely fake news, whenever all of these other news agencies and respected people put out news that's wrong and misleading, and people are seeing it. People are seeing it, and they're getting to the point that they're fed up. Now it's coming off as if they'll do anything to support anything that Donald Trump is against. Donald Trump's against illegal immigration, and he calls out MS-13. What is it that the media does? They defend MS-13, even to the point that Nancy Pelosi comes out making arguments that sound like MS-13 isn't really so bad. You know, it's like, how do you hate Trump so much that you're willing to abandon decency to the point that these gang members aren't that bad? If Trump and the conservatives say one thing that's good for a lot of people, just to defy him, they'll say the exact opposite, no matter how many people it hurts. And the American people, left, right, and center, are getting fed up with it, and they're going out and seeking out new sources of information. Like, it honestly feels like we're seeing the destruction of the media from the inside out. Trump seems to be what's causing all that. Well, if this is what we're seeing, if this is the evidence of what's happening because of Trump, that we're seeing the media for its colors, I guess he's doing a good job for letting us know. Okay, so I originally wanted to do 3 segments, the first 2 being the Roseanne and the media, and then the third one dealing with these Trump tariffs. Now, I've already recorded that third section, but while editing, I realized that this video was going to be way, way too long. So, I'm going to go ahead and release these first 2, and then release the next one in a couple of days. That being the case, we're going to go ahead and call this one an episode, and I'm going to say thank you very much for watching War Elephant's Pass In Review. We'll see you again next time. Semper Fi and God bless. War Elephant out. All right, and that's another episode of War Elephant's Pass In Review. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to help me make more future episodes, please show your support by visiting the Patreon link provided. As always, thank you for joining us today on War Elephant's Pass In Review.
It was supposed to be my Pentakill. Why did you die to me? I killed alone, 1, 2, 3 for champions. I can't believe it.